42,000 unarmed protesters, innocent unarmed protesters, many of them hung.
42,000 protesters with the biggest penises you've ever seen had not been hanged by the Iranian government, okay? That's what Donald Trump is claiming, okay? Don't get mad at me. He said they're all hung, okay? None of those things have happened, okay? That's ridiculous. And even if that ridiculous claim were to be true, it's still additionally ridiculous to blow up the Iranian fucking the pipelines and the Iranian bridges that 93 million people still use, and the Iranian power plants that, again, 93 million people use. That's not a solution to this problem. Not only is it not true, but also, even if it was true, what the fuck is your solution? To wipe out the entire Iranian civilization? How is that? Donald Trump earlier this morning delivering an incredible interview with CNBC where he just says ridiculous shit.
Join us now on the Squawk Newsline.
And then afterwards, we will get to Goat Talk with Chris Hedges and John Goatsheimer.
That if the U.S. can...
Okay, get excited for that.
President Donald J. Trump. President Trump, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Joe.
You are very welcome. Can you give us, I think it's on everyone's mind, the latest on where the Iran negotiations stand? We now know Tehran has publicly confirmed that it will send representatives to the meeting with Vice President Vance. What do you expect? What are you hearing at this point, sir?
Well, as I said 2 days ago when they said they won't send them, I said they'll be sending them. They have no choice but to send them. What I think is that we're going to end up with a great deal. I think they have no choice. We've taken out their Navy. We've taken out their Air Force. We've taken out their leaders, frankly, which does complicate things in one way, but these leaders are much more rational. It is regime change, no matter what you want to call it, which is not something I said I was going to do, but I've done it, indirectly maybe, but I've done it. And I think we're in a very strong negotiating position to do what other presidents should have done during a 47-year period. We have 47 years where these bloodthirsty people have been killing a lot of soldiers, a lot of our soldiers, and a lot of other people. They've killed 42,000 people over the last 2 months. And, you get to a point where people don't want to mention that. They don't like mentioning that. 42,000 unarmed protesters, innocent unarmed protesters, many of them hung. So we're not dealing with the nicest group of people, but we're dealing with them very successfully, and the blockade has been a tremendous success. They said 2 days ago, we will open the strait. I said, no, we're not going to open the strait until we have a final deal. No, we want to open the strait. They said, we're not opening. We totally control the strait, just so you understand, for all the fake news out there.
And, Mr. President, we've seen 100 days of the largest protests in Iran since the revolution in 1979. And I know how much you respect.
We live in a totally separate planet here in the United States of America. 42,000 protesters with the biggest penises you've ever seen had not been hanged by the Iranian government, okay? That's what Donald Trump is claiming, okay? Don't get mad at me. He said they're all hung, okay? None of those things have happened, okay? That's ridiculous. And even if that ridiculous claim were to be true, it's still additionally ridiculous to blow up the Iranian fucking the pipelines and the Iranian bridges that 93 million people still use, and the Iranian power plants that, again, 93 million people use. That's not a solution to this problem. Not only is it not true, but also, even if it was true, what the fuck is your solution? To wipe out the entire Iranian civilization? How is that somehow a solution to this problem?
And admire and are concerned with the Iranian people themselves. And this is, I think, in large degree, one of the reasons you decided to embark on this whole thing, maybe among other things, but the timing was right. If we get close in negotiations right now, but the deadline for the ceasefire is tomorrow.
Yes, I listened to the Daily today. It pissed me off to no end. Oh, my God. Oh, my fucking God. The New York Times Daily still doing the damn thing.
If it looks like things are...
Like, the Daily, basically, when it comes to foreign policy, is a way to manufacture consent for the most liberal audience to still feel reluctantly on board with whatever fucking military action we decide to do against whatever foreign adversary we've designed. Where that's their primary purpose, is to be like, listen, guys, I know you might not. I know that, our libtard audience might be feeling some type of way about our, bombing campaigns directed by the president who has said he's going to do a genocide against the Iranian population. But here are two Iranians that are, not in Iran currently, and how they also think that American military action is totally justifiable here. Is unbelievable. I basically listen to it when I'm lifting to piss me off so I can get better gains in the mornings, okay? It's just, it's so frustrating to see exactly what they're doing. Like, exactly what they're doing. The whole purpose is for liberals who are anti-war to feel reluctantly on board with the actions that Trump is taking. That's all it is. See? Here are two Iranians who agree. And obviously, in an effort to maintain some kind of credibility, they will mention that, like, there are other Iranians, including the first guy's wife who lives in Iran, who's like, shut the fuck up. Of course, bombs are not good, right? They'll show both sides of the story, but the two key fixtures in the commentary are two people that are not in Iran currently, that are excited to go back to Iran, who still tell you, blowing up Iran might not be the worst option here because we're so desperate for a regime change.
Are progressing, will you not necessarily extend it to a definitive amount of time, but will you let it keep going if there's progress in the talks before taking?
Well, I don't want to do that. We don't have that much time because by the time both parties get there, as you know, they just got the okay to go forward, which I knew they were going to do anyway. I mean, I don't think they had a choice. They have to negotiate. And, the one thing I'll say is this: Iran can get themselves on a very good footing if they make a deal. They can make themselves into a strong nation again, a wonderful nation again. They have incredible people. But they seem to be, bloodthirsty. They're led by some very, very unfortunately tough people. And I don't mean tough in a good way. I think it's very negative for the country because we're much tougher than they are, like not even close. But they have to use reason, and they have to use common sense, and they can get themselves into a great position to make themselves into a great country, but a legitimate country, not a country based on death and horror.
And I think regimes only respond to certain things, and I understand your threats to bomb the bridges in the electric grid.
You are wrong because my grandfather was half Iranian, and I agree, born and raised in California, by the way. Yeah, the only solution here is to evaporate every single Iranian living inside of Iran out of existence. That's the only way that we can enact regime change in Iran, which we have to do. Okay, I need you to understand. Lifelong Iranian here. Hello, buddy. I'm from Tehrangeles. Okay, and I'm here to tell you this is what we got to do so I can get Cuba Day one day.
But I don't think the regime cares about the people of Iran. And if
okay, sure,
if you did that, I'm sure it's the last thing you'd probably want to do. But it would hurt at least some of the people that we care about and why we embarked on this in the first place. So that would be, I'm sure, a last resort for you.
It's not my choice, but it will also hurt them. It'll hurt them militarily. They use the bridges for their weapons, for their missile movements. They're trying to move the missiles because we've obliterated most of their missiles, and they're trying to move the missiles.
I'm blowing up the bridges for the missile movements
around, even during the ceasefire, which I think was a good thing because we're totally loaded up. We have so much ammo. We have so much of everything that we've, much more powerful than it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. So we've used this to restock, and they probably have done a little bit of restocking. We caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it which wasn't very nice. A gift from China, perhaps. I don't know. But
this is what they're relying on as new evidence. Perhaps it was a dangerous gift, the most dangerous of all. You never know.
I was a little surprised, but because I have a very good relationship, and I thought I had an understanding with.
How did she betray me? How did he do it? How did she do it? I said, not my she. Not my she, I said.
President Xi, but that's all right. That's the way war goes, right? But I will tell you that our military is incredible, what we've done. I mean, think of it. In the first 3 days, we took out their entire Navy, 159 ships. 159 ships, and wiped out their Air Force, wiped out their anti-aircraft, all of their anti-aircraft apparatus is all gone. All of their radar is gone. Their leaders are gone. Their leaders are gone. The whole thing is gone. And frankly, this should have been done a long time ago. It would have been a lot easier because they were a lot less lethal. a long time ago.
So to be clear, you're saying that you need at least the prospects for a signed deal today and tomorrow, or else you would resume bombing Iran.
Well, I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with. But we're ready to go. I mean, the military is raring to go. They are absolutely incredible. I built the military in my first term. I'm using it now. The military, when I took it over from Barack Hussein Obama, it was so depleted, so sad. And I built it in my first term. You remember those big numbers. You talked to me about it once. That's a lot of money for military. I built it. We did a great job with our military, and we're using it now and rebuilding it, too. We've done a lot of rebuilding also in my first year of the second term. But we have the most powerful military in the world, and everybody knows it.
Since we're kind of tight on time, can we just talk about what something else happening today, and that is your pick for Fed Chair Kevin Warsh on Cal.
He's like, enough with this Iran stuff. Every time you talk, every time you open your mouth, the markets suffer. Let's get to your Fed chair pick.
Capitol Hill. We've had a couple of guests today say the best thing that we need now is for Jay Powell to leave in May like he's supposed to.
If you hate America so much, why don't you fund an American insurgency? What the fuck?
And to have Kevin Warsh in as Fed chair for that next June meeting. But we still have this Justice Department probe hanging over. And I've seen things that you said in recent interviews, Mr. President. And I just want to ask you again, if it would be possible for the Banking Committee to completely investigate all of your concerns about the cost overruns and the testimony of Jay Powell in front of Congress, if you could take that off-ramp to get this moving, and Jay Powell leaves, Kevin Warsh goes in, is that something you'd consider dropping for the DOJ probe to let the Banking Committee handle it?
From the standpoint, Joe, from the standpoint that we have to find out why a small building cost close to $4 billion. It's not finished, by the way. They have a long way to go. They ripped down the most beautiful ceilings. They'll never build them again. The most beautiful, thick, 1.5 foot thick walls of solid masonry. They're never going to be built again. They put up 6-inch sheetrock walls, and they say, so we have no insulation. It's not in the budget. I mean, these walls, they had the best. That building was so beautiful. I would have fixed that building. I would have had it brand new, beautiful for $25 million, and they're going to spend close to $4 billion, maybe more than that. I don't know. It's not finished. In fact, I looked at it the other day. I'm afraid Kevin will have to have an office next to me in the White House because that building's not going to be done. He's not going to be able to use that building for a long time. And, he had a complaint. He said, I didn't realize this. He said, the saddest thing is they ripped down the best building. He said there was a building that had beautiful boardrooms that he used many times when he was there, that beautiful boardrooms and meeting rooms. It was so beautiful, the nicest in Washington. And he said, they ripped it down. And maybe they did that to save money, like the Gavin Newsom, the railroad with it.
Why do people listen to him? I don't know, because he's the fucking president, dude.
They made it shorter in order to save money, but it's still 25 times over budget. But the worst I've ever heard is the railroad in California, and I think this might be worse. Think of it. I would have fixed that building.
We have to. Like, it's one of those situations where no matter how unhinged or unstable or demented he clearly is, his words still hold tremendous weight. This is what happens when you have a fucking toddler for president, but, he's still the president.
Beautiful. Quickly. $25 million would have been like a brand new building. All the ceilings would have been left. All those beautiful thick walls with gorgeous moldings would have been left. You're going to get a sheetrock ceiling, a sheetrock wall without insulation. They said, sir, insulation's not in the budget. Insulation costs you $100 a room. The whole thing is crazy, and they're at $4. I think it's going to cost more than $4 billion when it's finished.
But it would
but Joe, somehow we have to find out how this can happen. It's not the first time. How does this happen? Did the contractor make $3.5 billion?
Right. If the Banking Committee could take it over.
I can't imagine that Too Late is taking money on construction. I can't. But it's possible. But we have to find out why is a job that should have.
I mean, this is the thing that he loves talking about. So it's really funny that this was the entry point into any sort of. This was the entry point into creating a big deal, a controversy around the current Fed chair, because it's right in his wheelhouse. He loves talking about building buildings. He's like, this is the one thing. That's why he never shuts the fuck up about the ballroom. Like, It's a fantastic way for Trump to endlessly talk about how the Fed chair has to go to prison, not because of the real reason, which is what Trump wants, which is to lower interest rates, but because he did a real estate deal that was bad. I don't like the way he did the real estate. I don't like it. You know me. I know how to do real estate. I know how to do developments. It's a very bad deal. Very, very bad deal.
It was $25 million, costing billions and billions of dollars. You know, I built the hotel. It's now the Waldorf. I sold it to Waldorf, and it's now the Waldorf. I built it for $201 million. It's a bigger building than the federal, and it was hotel rooms with bathrooms.
Like, he's comparing the fucking Jerome Powell's the necessity to prosecute Jerome Powell for a development project that the Fed engaged in with him building a fucking Waldorf Astoria, bro. What is this comparison?
Rooms and, you know, partitions, and it's much more expensive to build a hotel room than it is a nice empty office space, right?
Oh my God!
I built that for $201 million. This now is 8 years ago or so. But think of it, this building, you look at it, it's a little building. It's over, I think it's going to cost over $400 billion. And here's the thing, it's going to be nothing compared to what it was. This is,
it's going to be nothing compared to the Waldorf Astoria. The Waldorf Astoria, beautiful building, believe me. Can you believe it? Oh my God. The curtains I put on that. The curtains I put on that Waldorf Astoria. Oh, unbelievable.
Spent $4 billion, and it's nothing compared to what it was. It was beautiful. It had beautiful ceilings. They're all destroyed. They took them down. I don't know why.
If the DOJ, though, if this goes forward with the Department of Justice and it delays him being confirmed, Kevin Warsh, it's kind of counterproductive for what you're trying to do in terms of changing the MO of the Fed up to this point. So I'm just trying to look for an off-ramp to get for you.
Well, it is and it isn't, Joe. You have to find out why a thing like that could happen, because if you have hundreds of projects like that, you know, very few are like this, but if you had hundreds of projects like that, you have to find out why that happens. I mean, because we obviously don't do it right. But, you know, we have some great people in government that can do jobs. I built under budget, ahead of schedule. I'm doing a ballroom now. It's a much bigger job than that. And it's going to cost, depending on finishes, like $300 million. It's a much bigger job than that's ahead of schedule. And I have lawsuits every week from all these people, all the do-gooders that, you know, that stop progress in our country.
But, I'm going to give Becky a chance, Mr. President, to get you to...
And you can have some extra time. I know my people said 20 minutes, but you can have some extra time.
All right. That's good.
You can even put Andrew on the phone. You know, you told me Andrew would not be there. And I said, I don't care.
That was last week. That was last week.
You could even put Andrew on.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Joe made a comment to me. When he tried to get me on, he said, I promise I'll have Andrew Ross-Hawkins. He will not be there.
That's
he is
that.
There. And you can put him on. It's okay.
I didn't say I'd have him. I said he's not in last week, but then you canceled because you were on the West Coast.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I'll chime in a minute.
There, and that's
he's
why
going to be so...
Becky,
but I don't mind if he's there. I like him. I respect him. He's just wrong on a lot of issues.
There you go.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about what you. Hi, sir. Let's talk a little bit about what you expect from your next Fed president. There had been a lot of expectations. You've been very clear about wanting lower rates. But with the situation in Iran right now with higher oil prices, most people tell us that that's going to have to wait. The market itself is not anticipating lower rates or any rate cuts until at least the second half of this year. There's only a 41% chance or something of that, according to the market itself. Will you be disappointed if your new Fed chair, if he gets approved, doesn't cut rates right away?
I would. But let's talk about Iran first. Iran, I'm looking at your numbers now as I speak. I mean, the market's up. We're going to be at 50,000. That's where we were just a little while ago when it started. And when I hit 50,000 on the Dow and 7,000 on the S&P, I said, well, I hate to do this to everybody, but I'm going to have to journey down to a place called Iran and not make sure they don't have a nuclear weapon, because they will blow up the world. You want to see a bad stock market? Try blowing up the Middle East and then Europe, and then they come for us, right? And we're not going to let that happen. So I said to my people, they're all gathered, all these wonderful guys, Scott Bessent, the whole group, Howard, they're all doing a good job. I said, fellas, I got a little bad news for you. I'm going to put a little wrinkle in your numbers. Why, sir? We're going down to a place called Iran, and we're going to make sure that they never have a nuclear weapon, because they'll use it to blow up, because they're religious fanatics, and they will use that weapon to blow up the world, but they'll start with Israel in the Middle East, and we're not going to let that happen. And they said, wow, that's going to be bad. I said, yeah, it's going to hurt the market, and it's going to drive up the price of oil and whatever it is. But that's peanuts compared to what would happen if we let this happen. And I told them, 47 years other presidents wanted to do it. They never had the guts, the courage to do it. I said, we have to do it. And they understood that, very professional. They're great guys, great people. Jameson's doing such a great job, all of them. And so I said, we're going down, and we're gonna do our little thing, and we did, and we've knocked out. We've totally won the war. If you read the New York Times, you think, oh gee, when are we surrendering? We have totally beat them militarily and otherwise. I mean, I wish you could hear the conversations we have with him, with them. We are victorious. If we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. And they can't get the nuclear dust because it was obliterated by the B-2 bombers that went in. They never got the credit they should get. They've tried to get down there. We have cameras from Space Force on it all the time. They've tried to get down. They can't get down. That place was obliterated. They did such a good job. The left tries to make it, tries to demean all the time, like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't totally obliterated. It was, and they can't get it, or they would have tried to get it. But the fact is that we took this little journey, and if you would have told me that the Dow is almost, I'm looking at your thing, I mean, literally we're at 50,000. And if you would have told me that oil is at 90, as opposed to 200, I would be frankly surprised. And you know what is happening? Boats are finding other sources. They're going up to Texas and Louisiana. They're going to Alaska. They're going to other places. It's an amazing phenomenon. When there are problems, people find out how to take care of things. And the Strait's very important, but people have found out. I mean, you're taking a look. Look at your numbers right now. I'm looking at where the stock market's up, where it's, look at that, S&P. The numbers are what they were when we started this whole thing. I thought they'd be down 20% or down a very substantial amount. Even when it was down more a couple of weeks ago, I was surprised. I thought it would be down much more, and I thought the oil would be much higher. And I'm very happy to say that it wasn't. And when it's over, and it will end, when it's over, they want it to be over immediately. And I just looked at a little chart. World War I, 4 years and 3 months. World War II, 6 years. Korean War, 3 years. Vietnam, 19 years. Iraq, 8 years. I'm 5 months. Okay, 5 months. I would have won Vietnam.
I read this as a threat, by the way. When he talks about how long some of these other the wars have taken, I feel like he's saying, first of all, 5 months is, I thought it was just 55 days or so. But also, I feel like he's saying we're going to be in it for a lot longer, Vietnam.
Very quickly. I would have, if I were president, I would have won Iraq in the same amount of time that we won, because essentially we've won here. Okay. I mean,
he's out of his dang mind, dude. How can anybody look at this guy running this country and go, well, that's a country I can invest in. This yield, to me, what this demented old man is saying, you know what that says to me? Stability, okay? This inspires confidence in me to continue investing into the United States of America. Everything is going to be fine.
People can play games.
Like Donald Trump's statements and market moves in the aftermath of Donald Trump's statements show me one thing, and that is that the money is unbelievably fake. And stock market confidence is just a never-ending cycle of copium that has nothing to do with whatever the previous market fundamentals used to be. It's anchored around delusion and a mutual interest in the market growing. It has nothing to do with any fundamentals. It has nothing to do with like actual serious analysis. Looking at what Trump is saying, looking at where the American government is going. It's just everybody thinking, this just has to keep going up. There's no other way around it.
The Democrats can say, well, we should have done better, no matter what. If I did it in 1 week, they'd say, we should have done better. Look at Venezuela. I took it over in 45 minutes. It was basically a 45-minute. And by the way, a very strong military country. and we took it over in a day, but let's be nice. But we basically took it over in 45 minutes. We took it over during the attack in 45 minutes.
But, Mr. President,
and they would say, I'm surprised they haven't said it, that you should have done it in 30 minutes. It took too long, you know. So
it took too long.
It's tough. But we can't let traitors, traitors like Schumer put pressure on you where they say, we want out. Think how bad that is. I'm negotiating with these people, and they're telling us, we have to get out now, we have to get out now, we have to get now. And they were in a war for 18 years. They were in a war for, think of that, Vietnam, 19 years, Iraq, 8 years. So
right.
I want to make a good deal. I'm not going to be rushed. I have all the time in the world. I want to make not a good deal. I want to make a great deal. I don't want to do this, go through this. And, you know, I mean, if you look at this, what we've suffered in terms of losses, we lost 13 men, and that's terrible. I wish we didn't lose one. But if somebody would have said, we've done this and obliterated that country, obliterated it, and we lost 13 men, people would have said, that's not possible to have done that. It's not possible.
Right.
So we've done a great job, and I don't want to be rushed by people that are really treasonous as far as I'm concerned. And it's just, you know, I watch this low IQ guy, Hakeem Jeffries. He's a totally low IQ person, and he's always ranting and raving, oh, this war is so terrible, terrible. They shouldn't be saying that when we're in the midst of a negotiation, because it does hurt us somewhat. It gives the other side some hope, and I don't want them to have hope.
Mr. President, I wanted to ask you about Anthropic, if I could, for a second, because this is a company that your administration has declared a supply chain risk. And I want to understand the determination for that. There's a view by some that it's political, but more importantly, at the same time that this is happening, reportedly, the NSA and other parts of the government are using Claude, which, of course, is the large language model of Anthropic, and how you square that.
Well, Anthropic is a group of very smart people, but they started telling our military how to operate, and we didn't want that. And they tend to be on the left, radical left, but we get along with them. In fact, they came to the office. They came to the White House a few days ago, and we had some very good talks with them, and I think they're shaping up. They're very smart, and I think they can be of great use. I like smart people. I like high IQ people, and they definitely have high IQs, you know? It's one of those things, and I think we'll get along with them just fine.
So do you think a deal will be made so that Anthropic will be allowed to be used inside the Defense Department in the future?
We want the smartest people. Now, in the meantime, we replaced Anthropic with somebody else. You know who they are, and they're very, very smart people. Sam Altman, a very, very smart group. We have a lot of smart groups. We have some brilliant people. We have the most brilliant people in the world. President Xi told me that. He said Silicon Valley. He called it Silicon Valley. During a conversation, I have a great relationship with him. He said, you have the smartest people in the world. And we do. You take a look at what's happening with Jensen and all of these people. And they're great.
President Xi, I call him. Silicon Valley, I call it. Very high IQ people. She said, you have the most high IQ people. They're so handsome. They are so handsome. IRGC Media Tasnim's information from various sources indicates that Iran had not requested an extension of the ceasefire. That's unsurprising. We kind of know that already. Donald Trump decided to extend the ceasefire on his own. And yes, Trita Parsi's assessment was somewhat correct for the record. I will get to that in a second. Trump caves and agrees to the extended ceasefire while presenting it as a function of the Iranian government being in disarray. Very importantly, he's also extending the ceasefire indefinitely, which reflects the outcome I have argued is the most likely. No deal, no sanctions relief, no nuclear compromise, no return to war while Iran continues to control the strait. Not a stable situation, but one in which Trump pockets the central thing he sought, which is exiting the war, while Iran is bereft of the main thing it was looking for, sanctions lifting. The one aspect of this back and forth that I consider to be interesting, however, is that while there is an ungraceful exit seemingly from this weird limbo that we're in now, is the Strait of Hormuz closed? Is the Strait of Hormuz open? Well, the one thing that remains is that it is actually closed, right? The American Navy is still closing the Strait of Hormuz. So if that's the case, if the American Navy is still very much firmly keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed, then the economic impact will still continue. And therefore, in this war of attrition, that's still beneficial for Iran. It's not as beneficial for Iran because they don't get their maximalist goals across, which is, again, sanctions relief, obviously. But I see this as potential perfidy. Your Zateo article just dropped? Oh, hell yeah. Inside the heart and mind of Hasan Piker. Prem Tucker traveled to LA to go beyond the media outrage and talk directly with a Twitch streamer and prominent leftist about religion, politics, war, and whether he'd go on Tucker Carlson's show. Nice. We will read this later. Okay? He should be called Mao Zedong the way he be good to China. Oh, he is. He is. Iran has said over and over again that they will actually attend a new round of talks if Trump opens the Strait of Hormuz, like the American side of the blockade.